The survival mode most parents call normal. Between juggling work, parenting, groceries, bills, and the endless mental load, I was constantly running on empty. I'd push through the day with coffee and then wind down with wine or ginger beer. I am in Broome after all. And this was just to make it through all the routines of the day. And then most nights, the only me time I had was after the kids went to bed, except half the time I'd fall asleep beside them because they wouldn't settle on their own. Then I'd wake up realizing I'd missed my only quiet time of the day. And beneath this exhaustion was something deeper. I felt like I'd lost myself in parenthood. Everything revolved around everyone else's needs, daycare, school, appointments, meal planning, grocery shopping, routines. I was holding it all together, carrying the mental load, and by the end of the day, there was nothing left for me. At night, my mind would also run and repeat as I was going to sleep. I'd be reflecting on the day and I'd be thinking, oh, am I hurting or stuffing up my kids? Am I failing them because I'm too tired, too stretched, too impatient, don't have enough time for them? Am I doing enough? I was constantly worried about the future whilst also battling the guilt about how I was showing up for them in the present. And I thought this was normal. I thought I was coping until I wasn't. So the wake up call. Chronic fatigue stopped me in my tracks. I couldn't push through anymore. My body had been whispering for years and now it was screaming. And I thought I just needed more rest, more self care, but nothing was working. No matter how much I slept, how much meditation I did, I forced myself to do, or how many doctors I saw, I was getting sicker by the day. I stopped being able to exercise, work, even the basics of life felt impossible. Meanwhile, I was desperately trying to fix the fatigue without realizing the connection between this constant stress, the endless worries, and how it was all feeding into my illness. And that's when a friend gently suggested I look into parasympathetic nervous system work. So, this is the part of the nervous system that's responsible for connection, safety, and regulation. So, I started researching and the breath. So, then I found the reset that changed everything. So, I found breathwork through the Reconnected. So, if you've not heard of them, they have taught over like 100,000 people in this style of breathwork and they teach it in this 15 minutes a day. So it sounded simple enough, achievable. I thought, why not? What have I got to lose? By this point, I had exhausted the Western medical system. I'd seen numerous doctors, I'd had countless blood tests. I was taking like 10 different tablets a day, and I had gone through several rehabilitation programs. I was ready to try something different. And then what I found wasn't just rest, it was relief. Here I was thinking I was just going to get more energy, but instead I started to notice a shift in myself and my parenting. There was like finally space in my mind to cope with all the stuff. Life didn't feel so overwhelming and consuming anymore. Things that used to send me spiraling, like a phone call from school, to say that my child had hit another kid, they just started to feel like water off a duck's back. And I could respond instead of react. I could think more clearly. I wasn't being hijacked by every emotion every time something went wrong. And the most surprising part, I started noticing all the things I already knew about behavior and parenting, the things I've read and studied, and even taught that I hadn't been able to put into practice. You know that feeling like when you know better, but then you still do the thing anyway because you just can't help it? So frustrating. Well, all of that stuff was finally sinking into my body. I could actually do better, not perfectly, but more often, more gently, more intentionally. So from seeker to sharer. I remember thinking, like, what is this sorcery? Especially as someone who has spent a lifetime seeking answers to mental health struggles. I had all but given up on ever finding something that truly made a difference. Then along came breath work, and it was helping me in every area of my life, like better mental health, better energy, clearer thinking, less reactivity. And after experiencing that shift, I just knew I had to study it, not to teach, not at first, but just to understand it more deeply. I enrolled in the training through the School of Breathwork, and over 2 years and something like over 450 hours of study, practice, and supervised client work, I completed it, and it was life changing. And of course, by the end, I knew I had to share this with other parents, especially those raising neurodivergent kids, because this practice is gentle, simple, and it easily fits into your life. It doesn't require you to still your mind or wait for a quiet house or a moment to yourself. It meets you exactly where you are, in the chaos, in the overwhelm, in the realness of parenting. And honestly, I still pinch myself that I found something so easy and so powerful. I wish every parent knew about it. And I feel especially passionate about sharing it with parents of neurodivergent kids because we do have it harder with more challenges, more responsibilities, and more invisible load than most people will ever see. And yet, we matter too. We deserve support too. And we can thrive, but only if we have something that supports us from the inside out. And for me, that's breath work. I can't wait to share something special with this beautiful community.